there's a small passage in the book where you talk about the need for Hindus to go back to a slightly more martial form of religion, where they focus on in the very early parts of the book, akhada training and wrestling and all of that. I don't know if that is still relevant today. Why? What was the genesis of that happening? Did Hedgewar deliberately think that there was some benefit to perhaps being more martial in people's Hinduness, or was it just a response to some of this?
Yes, it's a good question, isn't it? And you know, the answer, again, my headline answer is I don't know. But one can conjecture based on what we saw and what he wrote and what he did.
Mm-hmm.
My conjecture is that I think he recognized that the Hindu male
Mm-hmm.
lacked character. I can't put it in any simpler terms.
Sure.
He felt the problem with India was not Muslims or the British or anybody else. Hedgewar doesn't have much to say about that. Hedgewar felt that the Hindu society was the problem and the Hindu male was the problem. It was a patriarchal society where women, 1% of women could read and write. They were generally, you know, a woman's life in India of his times was completely at the whims of the men around them.
Sure.
Right? Let's not kid around. So he saw all this, and he saw that the Indian male, the Hindu male, is the problem. So you have to reform. If you're a cultural nationalist, which he became, he recognized that it's the male that we have to transform. One of the things he saw was that the Hindu male lacked any form of courage, physical stamina about himself.
Mm-hmm.
And remember his upbringing. He comes from a family of wrestlers. His father, older brother, and him. These were wrestlers. I mean, Hedgewar is 6'1" or 6'2" tall, according to the British. And is built pretty, I mean, if you've seen pictures of him, he's pretty broad-chested. You know, he's a big guy. And so he comes from a martial family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number one. Number two is that his adopted father, Munjay, was a military officer who fought in the Boer Wars. Brutal. The Boer Wars were brutal. So Munjay comes from that legacy. So now you've got two major influences in your young life where to be martial is what it means to be a man. Right? So that's one thing. His upbringing is rooted in that. And around him, he saw his own peers, generally meek, docile, incapable of really holding your own if it came to fisticuffs.
Mm-hmm.
And Hedgewar throughout his life, and I think I show this in the book, especially in his younger life when he's this angry revolutionary, he beats a few people up, you know, and he goes looking for fights, right? I mean,
Right.
This guy is a little bit of a tough guy, you know? And so you see the RSS, let's be frank, in the early days was a potent group of tough guys, right? When you became a Swayamsevak in the early 20s, in the mid to late 20s and the early 30s, the first 10 years of the Sangh, because of the chaos that was happening in the society, lawlessness, lack of justice, lack of order, in that vacuum, tough guys become important.
If you liked the episode, please leave your key takeaways in the comments. It helps us decide future episodes. And of course, make sure you follow Dostcast on Spotify. Dostcast to the moon.
Because if now I am a Hindu and somebody robs my house or somebody kidnaps my daughter or somebody's harassing my son,
Sure.
who do I go to? I can't go to the police because there are not enough of them.
Mm-hmm.
Law courts are now decimated or too expensive and I can't get any sense of justice. I only have two options. I either rely on my caste or my creed, some guru or something, or what? And this is where the RSS comes in.
You become able-bodied yourself. You become a Swayamsevak.
Yeah, exactly. So now young men who thought, oh my God, I can't protect my family. I can't protect, and I'm unemployed, right?
Yeah.
Jobs were scarce. I'm poor. I'm a bit frustrated with my lot. Here is something that gives me a sense of belonging. gives me a sense of respect, dignity. I'm treated like an individual. I'm never asked about my caste. I'm never asked about my class or my creed. It doesn't matter how I worship, who I worship, what mandir I go to, or if I'm an atheist. Nobody cares.
Right.
And suddenly I can belong here. Not only that I can belong, I get to become tough. Right? And suddenly, when I walk around the streets and I wear the uniform, I'm a tough guy. People cross the road, People come to me and say, hey, I need this. Can you help me with that? And suddenly I feel respected. I feel wanted. And so this social capital gets built up, right? Sense of belonging and then sense of service. Remember the sense of service?
Uh-huh.
So that sense of service that, hey, you're not just tough guys. You're there to look after the Hindu community. You're there to go and provide medical help. You're there to help the poor. You're there to alleviate poverty. You see that old lady over there who's got no children? You're there to look after her. Now suddenly you have purpose, you have meaning that is beyond yourself, which is what Eric Fromm calls unalienation, right? You stop being alienated and you build a sense of rootedness. In fact, he calls it rootedness. So all these things happen. So yeah, I mean, the early RSS are a bunch of tough guys and they can get things done. They can get things done nicely, but when they needed to, they got things done the tough and tumble way. They got into fisticuffs when they needed to, and they definitely projected fear into the other, whoever the other was. Now, here, if you don't mind,
Of course.
People often think the other is the Muslim.
Right.
Not true. Not true. I couldn't see any evidence of that in any of the archival evidence. What the other was anybody who was not a Deshbhakt. The red line of the RSS was not on class, caste or creed. Creed is religion. It was on Deshbhakti. If you were somebody who genuinely wanted to rebuild the society, you wanted to support one another, you were, trying to build social capital, generally you were co-opted or you were supported. But if you were trying to promote casteism, if you were trying to subjugate the poor and take advantage of the poor, i.e. a lot of these zamindars, right? The peasantry, the RSS was on your case. The RSS wasn't just about Hindu Muslims. That's again a caricature, sadly. That's been quoted too often. Certainly, when Orthodox Muslim clerics riled up a minority of Muslim youths and these clashes happened, people called upon the RSS to protect mandirs, protect their neighborhoods, protect the processions. Absolutely. So there were clashes between the RSS and Muslim youths, no doubt. But to think that was the only clashes is naive. The RSS youth also tamed the zamindars. They also tamed people who were subjugating those of the lower social caste order. So the RSS was much more nuanced, and I don't think people give enough due attention to these things. And now that I've said this, I hope some clever historian out there goes out there and does all this digging, because it's there to be done.
If you love this episode, make sure you leave a note at the end so we know what more to make of. And of course, follow Dostcast on Spotify, Dostcast to the moon.